Hi there, my name is Margaret Bannon. Welcome to Yoga for Tennis. I am both a teacher of tennis and yoga, and today I'm going to show you a yoga posture that's very helpful for the hips. So we tend to get a lot of tension along the fronts of the hips as tennis players since we're habitually in a bent knee position for our ready position and for most of our strokes. So I'm going to show you a couple versions of the pose that can be helpful as both a warm-up but also as a cool-down as you might look to restore the body after having played tennis. Okay, so let me show you a couple versions of this. I have a block handy for our second version, so you might have one of those if you have one. Otherwise, I'll give you an option in case you don't have that additional prop. Okay, so I'm going to come onto my back and let's begin. So as I come onto my back, I'm going to see that my feet are about 4 or 5 inches away from my hips, and I have my feet about hips width apart. I'm going to bring the arms along the sides of my body, and I'm just going to take a moment to ground down through the feet, through the upper arms, even slightly through the back of my head. So before I lift up, I'm going to engage my back side a bit, and I'm going to wait for an inhale, and I'm going to come up on inhale, and as I exhale, I'm going to lower down. So I'm just going to move dynamically here initially to help prepare the body for the static version. So as I next inhale, I'll lift up, so coming up to a comfortable amount, and as I exhale, I'll lower down. So you'll notice as I lift up, my knees are pointing forward, and I'm trying to press evenly into my feet. And the more I engage through my back side, I might be able to access a little more opening through the fronts of the hips. I guess I might do this about 6 times or so, or maybe you feel a little tighter in nature and you want to get used to this movement, maybe 12, 15 times. You'll have to play around with that and see what works for you. And then I'll rest here a bit. Here's a nice little warm-up. If I was going to do that for a restorative effect afterwards, of course, I could take some dynamic movement as well. But what's really helpful after having taken a lot of movement on the court, and you might not necessarily feel like moving after being on the court for such a long period of time, is to hold the posture with a little bit of support. So in comes the block. So I have this block, and this block can be used on various heights, as you can see. I'm going to be using the lowest height today. And same idea, I'm going to lift up, but then this time I'm going to bring the block beneath my hips. So if you'll notice, I'm placing the block so that my hips are in a neutral position. I'm not tilting the tail forward, the tail's not tilting towards me. I'm looking for that happy medium. And as I feel more support through my hips, again, gentle energy through the feet, gentle energy through the upper arms, but my hips are heavy, and the idea here is that I'm going to just relax the hips into the block. So what might be hardest about this posture is that you're not being asked to do anything once you get into it, but the idea is to let go into it. Okay, so again, you might start for shorter periods of time if you're not used to this type of movement. However, you could hold it for long periods of time, maybe 1-2 minutes. And then I'm going to open my hands towards the sky because that just allows me to broaden through the front of the chest a little bit more and might give me an additional benefit of a little opening through the shoulders that are definitely necessary for our tennis body. So I'm going to hold it here for just a couple more moments so that you can see. I might take a couple moments just to observe my breath, and I might even take a couple moments just to reflect upon my practice or my match that day. You know, you're not trying to judge, but just reflect on how it felt, how it went, maybe what you love so much about tennis. And then to come out again, you'll press into the feet, you'll lift up. And once you remove that block, you might find it helpful to hug the knees in towards the chest, just to counter the type of movement you just did, and because you had that block beneath you, it might be nice to massage the hips a little bit side to side. And then notice how I come out. I'm going to roll onto my side. I'm going to gently press myself up, and you want to take a couple moments to sit before you come up. So never rushing, throughout the practice, but certainly as you come out of the practice, again, you might have been on court, and it's a nice opportunity to slow down in opposition to what we normally do on court. And so there you have it, bridge pose, both in a dynamic fashion and also a static / more restorative version that you might feel helpful for after having played tennis. And just a really nice way to incorporate yoga into your practice if you're not already doing that. And it certainly would be a really nice way to start because I think that one you're going to feel some immediate relief, hopefully. All right, so thank you for joining me, Yoga for Tennis, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.